This is Real Generational Wealth. Live from Southern California, this is Abby, Espy, and Jen.
Happy Wednesday.
Hello. Hi, ladies. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Real Generational Wealth, where we have over 50 years of combined experience making sure you and your family always have a place to call home. Today, we have an amazing episode with a special guest, which we'll bring on in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking about estate planning. So if you are catching us live, be sure to hashtag live in the comments. And if you're catching us on the replay, hashtag replay. Well, before we bring on our guest, Abby, Espy, how are you? How's your day? How's your week? How's real estate?
Busy.
It's
so
crazy. Yeah.
But it's fun. I love it.
Well, I'm doing this with you in the Bay Area. I'm here in Union City in the East Bay. We call it East Bay here also, Abby.
What are you doing over there?
Well, I finally closed the escrow for my client.
Awesome.
Congrats.
Closed it. So she's rich. Now she's looking for a house. And it's crazy to look for a house here because for 700, 800,000, it's like a starter home, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, maybe less than 1,000 square feet.
So how much did you sell it?
Huh?
How much did you sell it for?
No, the condo, her condo, it was 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 710 square feet, and we sold it for 430.
Nice.
Okay.
Now we have to look for at least 700,000 for a single family home, and she needs at least 3 bedrooms.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is the market up there kind of like how it is here in LA, where everyone's going 10, 15, 20% above asking?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Just checking. I would say it's crazy, but it's not crazy. I mean, I just opened escrow on a deal Friday, and I've had inspections all week. We got accepted at $200,000 above asking.
Oh my
What was the
goodness.
sales price? Oh my God.
$1,035,000.
Well, yeah, percentage.
It's all percentages, right? It kind of depends on the price range of the property, but it is a crazy market.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but appraisals will come in low sometimes still.
Yeah.
So buyers have the appraisal protecting them just in case they feel like they overbid.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Well, it depends. If there's some buyers who are lingering there and waiting, because they can make an offer even the day before you close escrow. They can still say, "Hey, I can pay cash."
That's true. It'll just prolong the escrow and just cause a headache. But I noticed too that interest rates went down. I don't know if you ladies have been checking. It's like 2.875% on a 30-year fix.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so low.
Right?
Yes.
Well,
yeah,
the Feds are buying.
That's right. I mean, like the
Feds
interest rates
are buying.
They were ticking up, and now they're kind of ticking down. But prices are still going up, especially as the market's heating up. I mean, we're going into summer, right? Which is historically is always just the hottest time of the year.
Yeah, because everyone wants to be out looking at houses. Yeah. They want to get in before the school year starts. So there's that influx of buyers that are motivated by schools during the summer.
Yes, it's the start now because May is sitting.
Yes,
we're getting into the May, springtime, early, it's basically spring is here, May, and people are thinking, and plus, we're slowly getting out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's the mindset.
Yes, that's true. I want to start having open houses again and baking cookies.
July 1st.
Yes,
July 1st,
yeah, I'm excited.
Everything's basically going to open up again, which is exciting. There'll be even more movement. So more opportunities for people to buy, more opportunities for people to sell.
Yeah,
I
this
have
is
a
actually that time to cash out,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true. I
Yeah.
have a listing coming up in Roland Heights in case anyone is looking for a beautiful house that's fully upgraded, new
I saw
everything.
that.
Yeah, I,
I saw
I'm the
you
one
working
that's
on that, Abby.
I'm kind of managing the project. So
Uh-huh.
that's part of the package, I guess you get with me. Um,
Uh,
I have a team of contractors. They'll do the work, and the prices are the lowest that you can get, and I'm there supervising the work just to ensure that it gets
mhm,
done on time, because I we were supposed to go on the market tomorrow, but delays happen.
Right.
So that
mhm,
one I'm excited about, that because there's my client has the home paid off, and
mhm.
so we're going to put it on the market for 1.2 mil, whereas
Nice.
maybe just months ago it would have only been 900,000. So I'm
Mhm.
excited for them. So we'll see how that goes.
Very nice. That's good.
Exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, if we have our pool of contractors, professionals that really work with us. And when you do it that way, then usually you as a seller would not have to really worry so much about vetting who you want to work with.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
even the pricing would not be as outrageous. Yeah.
Because that's so true, because one of the handymen that were working on the project, he's somebody that I don't know. It was someone that was recommended, and oh my gosh, he did a terrible job on one of the one of the parts of the home, and
Mm,
I was just like, see, this is why it's really important to have your realtor refer good
Use their, yeah.
contractors to you.
mhm,
So
mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Saves a lot of
That
time
market is
too.
all really fast.
yes.
Like everything else.
Yeah.
So, speaking of which, as far as getting things on the market and getting things sold, we've been getting a lot of questions from people lately as far as people who want to get, I guess, their estates together, right? Estate planning in general. What happens to
Mhm,
my home in the future or after I pass and whatnot? How can I make sure that my heirs and my beneficiaries are taken care of? So
mhm,
today we are bringing on a very special guest, attorney Lioness, who's going to help us with all of that. Give me one second.
mhm.
Yay.
Good. Yay. We're so fortunate to have Attorney Lioness with us.
Yes. Good afternoon, ladies. Thank you so much for having me.
Good.
Yeah.
Hi, Attorney Linus.
Yes. Good afternoon. Hi.
Thank you for sharing your time.
Oh yeah,
I'm
not
Yeah,
sure
we
it's
know you're
really
busy.
busy. Yeah.
no. It's it is one of my passions to actually take any and every opportunity to educate the community about the importance of estate planning and what estate planning really consists of. So if you extend an invitation, I will almost always say yes.
We're
Thank
so
you.
glad to have you.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we even get into, I guess, the nitty-gritty of estate planning, tell us about yourself. How long have you been an attorney? What
Sure.
made you get into estate plan, doing estate planning?
Yeah. So I actually started out as a corporate attorney, as in corporate law, and I dealt a lot with LLCs, corporations, all of that. So it was mainly transactional. And of course, entrepreneurs and business people have a lot of things to protect, right? And so it melds
Yeah.
very naturally with estate planning. So that went hand in hand. But I really started to focus on estate planning solely about a little over 2 years ago, when I joined the Collins Law Group. And we are strictly estate planning attorneys. And I mean strictly. I mean, we don't do personal injury on the side. We don't do labor employment. All we do is estate planning. And what I found is that being Filipino American, I am actually uniquely qualified to be an estate planner, because when I'm sitting down with my clients, and we're talking about what's important to them, nobody off the bat says, oh, well, what's important to me is all my money, or what's important to me is my home, right? They always talk to me about their children, about the loved ones, about the relationships, about their unique experiences, and being part of the culture. That's what Filipinos are about, right? We love our family, we love our friends, we love our family we love our friends who are family. And so I certainly feel like I've been very, very blessed to be raised in that culture, because estate planning is really where I was meant to be professionally.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so what is estate planning? Can you explain for our viewers?
Okay. So estate planning, when you ask the average person, and Jen actually started off this way, when you ask the average person about estate planning, they go right off to when I die, right? But really, estate planning is about, being able to take care of yourself and your loved ones in times of your illness, incapacity, and death. And so a lot of people just think we're just going to die one day and that's it, right? But the truth is that everybody's living longer, right? And of course, we're living through this pandemic, barely coming out of it, right? And a lot of people have gotten ill during this time. A lot of people have died unprepared, completely unprepared for COVID-19. Right. And so what that's done is it's really inundated the courts here in California with regard to conservatorship, with regard to probate court. And so, estate planning is about really having the appropriate power of attorney documents in place in case you are ill. And you don't even have to go to the hospital. You could just be in a bad car accident and you maybe have fractured your hip, right? And of course,
I agree.
Yeah, it deals with the finality of our lives. And I get it. Nobody wants to think about what happens if I get sick, what happens if I die, but this is a reality that we all have to contend with. And so estate planning is really about protecting our loved ones from these instances, these what ifs in our lives.
So when is the best time to set up your estate? Is it when you're 40, when you're 50, when you don't have kids yet?
Okay, well, there's two golden rules that I have to bring up. And as long as you are alive, as long as you are breathing, blinking, and you have the capacity to make these decisions, everybody requires power of attorney documents. Everybody. Whether you're single, whether you're married. I think one of the most heartbreaking things for me is meeting with a spouse that's had to go through a conservatorship for her husband, because she just operated under this assumption that I've been married for 30 years, so I can just make decisions on behalf of my husband. I can sign documents on behalf of my husband. That's not what marriage gives you the license to do. That's not marriage gives you the license to file taxes jointly, and that's pretty much it. Right?
That's true. That's true.
Really, as long as you are alive, you require power of attorney documents for property and for healthcare matters. Now, we start getting into, everybody does need an estate plan. The issue really, it becomes, what type of estate plan do you need? Because in California, the golden rule is if you own a home or, rental income property, you really ought to put a living trust in place, because there's really no other way to avoid probate but that. There's no other way. I don't care. A lot of my prospective clients and a lot of the people that I end up retaining, they try to get really creative in the beginning, right? Because nobody wants to think about dying. Nobody wants to think about that finality. Nobody wants to think about, I may get sick. But as a real estate owner, you have that responsibility. Once your name is on title to something, you need a living trust in place. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? That's it. And then, of course, if you don't have real estate, you still need an estate plan, because you may still need a will in place. You still may need to check in with your financial institutions to make sure that you have designated beneficiaries, because what you don't want is maybe you don't own real estate. That's fine. But what if you have a $2 million IRA?
Right.
And you didn't name beneficiaries. Guess what? Your people are going to probate.
It can break families.
Yeah,
it does. I see that. I see that all the time.
I had a client who was 40 years old. He was working at NASA.
Yeah.
A key person there. And suddenly he got into cancer, and in 2 months he died, right?
Yeah.
No kids. He was married, and they didn't have a will. He didn't have a will. So living high, and then suddenly it was just going down and down and down, and then he couldn't talk and all that. And there was no will. The will was in a computer. He made it, but there's no password.
It wasn't notarized?
No,
They could not access it. There's no way, those, and it can break families, because it would say, oh, mom said this, or sister said that, wife said this, and it's awful. If you have 500,000 in your 401k as a key employee, it can break families when when money is being the topic.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have an SPA.
Yeah, you hit on a really sensitive topic. There's just so many advantages to engaging in an estate plan. And, one, you want to leave your intentions. You want to formalize them, because when you're gone, there is no, well, she said this to me 2 months before she died, on her deathbed, that she told me she wanted me to have the house. Like, that's not a formal estate plan,
Yeah.
And then two, you do want to minimize the family drama. Right? You want to make this ease of transfer. It's bad enough that you've lost your loved one, right? Emotions are running high. Everyone's stressed out. Everyone's grieving in a different, manner. And yeah, and you want to make things easier, as easy as you can possibly get. And it's you just have to pre-plan. And that brings me sort of to the part where, Abby was just like, well, when's the right time to engage in an estate plan? When you have the capacity to do so, because I can't even tell you how many phone calls I take every day where it's too late. It's too late. Your mom's in a memory care facility. I can do nothing for her. I can do nothing. Someone's on a ventilator. They have 10 properties. I'm sorry. Your family's going to probate. You got late stages of dementia. I can't have a conversation with you anymore. Right? So there's a point of no return for each and every one of us. And, it's important. It's important to just engage in it while we still can. And it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking during this pandemic, how many people that I can't help. I have not, I couldn't help. And that's so frustrating, because, we're all in these professions where we serve our community, right? We're all in these professions where we want to be valuable resources, but then you get taken to this place where it's like, I can do nothing for you. And it's awful.
It sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like when my dad passed away, we didn't have an estate for him. And it does cause a lot of infighting within the family, because it's like, I was taking care of him. I should get more. No, you should, how do you divide that equitably or in an equitable manner? Right.
Yeah.
So I totally understand. I wish we had something like that, and it would have prevented a lot of drama and heartache. So
yeah, and there would be times that families would not talk for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So it's really good to. Oh, I have a question here from Aurora. Hi, Aurora. Thank you for watching. She has a question. Can I read it?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
She said, when your kids are all adults, can you just donate your property? Do you need to put that in the will or living trust?
Yeah. So remember, Aurora, the golden rule here in California is that if you own real estate, you need a living trust, because if you leave property behind in your name, like a living trust, now your kids are going to have to go through probate just to take control of property that you are intending to go to charity. And in probate, you can lose at least 25% of the value of your estate. You can lose it to filing fees, probate fees, attorney's costs, property maintenance, publications, all this stuff, bonds. And so even if your intentions are good, okay, and I have a lot of clients that want to make charitable donations and, want to do good in the world, even if your intentions are good, even if you want to donate your real estate to charity, you're still going to need to create a vehicle to make that ease of transfer effortless upon your death.
Yeah.
For some of us that don't know, or for some of the viewers that don't know, can you tell us what probate is?
Oof, probate's awful. Um,
Yeah.
so probate is a court supervised process that you have to engage in when your loved ones passed away and left behind real estate or sizable assets, and these assets were not put into a living trust. And probate is public, okay? It's public information here in LA County. You can basically download all sorts of documents with a click of a button, right? Everybody watches HGTV. And
Yes.
what you don't understand is that some of these flippers are purchasing these fabulous homes off of probate records because these records,
that's so true.
yeah, they're so and then also your next door neighbor can know about your drama. Who wants that? Who wants that, right?
Yeah.
Your neighbor to know that your kids are fighting over the house. And it's also costly and it's time consuming, right? So like if you left a house behind and it was just in your name, not in the name of your trust, either your spouse is going to probate for you or your kids are going to probate for you. And it used to be, an easy probate used to be like you're in the court for a year and a half. But because of the pandemic, that's doubled because a lot of people died. A lot of people died during COVID, and a lot of people died without estate plans. And so now there's like a standstill at the court, and you're just kind of waiting. And it's so frustrating that you have to wait in order to take control of your parents' house that you grew up in, right? And your parents don't even want to give it to you. They want to give it to charity.
Right.
So, that's madness.
So there's a couple questions here, but before I call them out, I want to just piggyback off what you just said. Probate sale, for those of you guys watching, happens when when you pass away and your property's not in a trust. So a will is not good enough, guys. If your real estate is in your name and you write a will, and it's just, you say, hey, my kids get this, kids that. If it's not in a trust, it'll still go to probate. Essentially.
Oh, I want to add one more thing about that, and I'm gonna ask Attorney Lioness to clarify that. Okay, so a lot of people get into trust. They go to the internet, get a NOLO and all that, and then download it. And the sad part about it is that they don't really know the intricacies of the trust. And there are trusts that even though they have a trust, it still can be in probate.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So it's funny because I was just part of a panel the other day, and one of the audience members said, well, what makes you different from the legal documents provider, LegalZoom? And I took offense to that real fast. I'm like, wait, pump the brakes. I am an estate planning attorney. This is all I do. And LegalZoom is a document service provider. You're basically filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
You're turning yourself into your own estate planning attorney, and you are filling in the blanks. So you might as well, instead of spending $500 at LegalZoom, you might as well go ahead and drive to Office Depot, buy those $15 CDs, and then fill in at least you would have saved a couple $100. If that's where you go. Now, a lot of people think that, like I said, estate planning is just about who gets what when I die, and that's like the tip of the iceberg. What a lot of people fail to understand is that, this is a very complex field, and these people that you're dealing with in terms of, giving advice for your estate plan, they really ought to be getting nosy about your life. Okay. They need to be asking you, where do you have your bank accounts? Where do you have your IRAs? Do you own stocks and bonds? Do you own life insurance policies? What about your children? Oh, one of them you don't have a relationship with. Why? Oh, one of them has special needs because he's schizophrenic. Okay, when was he diagnosed? Because then that allows you to really be protected. If I heard that from my clients that that someone had a schizophrenic son, that immediately alerts me to the fact that there needs to be special provisions in that person's section of the trust that protects them from getting disqualified from public benefits in case they're on some sort of disability. It protects them from creditors, or anybody, predators. So that's a big one. And then, is your attorney, not LegalZoom, okay? Is your attorney asking you, oh, do you have grandchildren? Do you have a son-in-law? Do you have a daughter-in-law? Because when you say yes, I have a daughter-in-law, or yes, I have a son-in-law, that tells me your children needs divorce protections, because America has the highest divorce rate, and it is it is our number one wealth depleter, right, here in America. And so these things need to be discussed, and it isn't about who gets what when you die. That is barely scratching the surface, and that's not protecting you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good to know.
Or a Brady Bunch, what do you call Brady Bunch?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Blended families.
Very common.
Blended families, multiple marriages. I mean, your planning attorney needs to be asking you these questions. And if you feel like they're getting nosy or invasive about your private life, that is our job. That is our job, because we're there to protect you and your estate. And if you can't be candid about it, maybe you're not ready for estate planning. Right?
Right.
So we have a question here from Alvin. He said, if you are a dual citizen and have property in the US and the Philippines, do you need to will for each country of citizenship?
So understand that a will and a trust here in America is only going to cover property here in America. If you have property in the Philippines, you've got to check with the laws over there, because our trust will not have jurisdiction.
Oh, it will not protect?
Yeah, our trust will not have jurisdiction. Yeah. So and that's common now, because everybody's traveling, right, out of country, settling elsewhere. And so, same deal. If you had a timeshare down in Brazil, you got to check with the laws in Brazil, because American trusts are going to cover properties in all 50 states, but not outside of the country.
Even if you put it in your will that, I have a timeshare in Brazil, I want this to be given to my son.
Sure. You can put that, but the way that property is administered in Brazil is going to go according to Brazilian law. That'll help you, right? That's your intent. Yeah, but as a property owner in whatever country, you've got the responsibility to figure that out.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, because in the Philippines, if let's say mom and dad owns property in the Philippines, and then all the siblings are here in the United States, and there's only one sibling in the Philippines, right? So there's going to be a trust. I had a client who had a trust, and the mom and dad had a trust, and she was the administrator. And then we had a property here in the United States, and then we have property in the Philippines that needs to be taken care of. So they have a lawyer that actually took care of that and made sure that everybody was, taken care of. But my question there is, if they liquidate the property that is outside the country, like for instance the Philippines, and then it was transferred here in the United States, then it's going to be, the division is going to be based on the will here, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so that's one way of doing it, is you liquidate the property wherever it is, and then bring the money here, the funds here, and then put it under that umbrella of the trust.
Exactly.
Okay, I learned something today.
I'm learning a lot, actually. Well, so
I'm learning so much. That's why I'm just trying to soak it in.
I mean, so I'm noticing in our conversation here, we're kind of using will and trust interchangeably, but I know they're not exactly.
They're not.
So we do have a question here from somebody saying, I always recommend, or from Oliver, our lender who's been on our show before, he says, I always recommend my reverse mortgage clients to put their home in a trust to protect their heirs by the reverse mortgage 95% rule. Can you talk about the advantage of having a trust?
Sure. So I don't know about the 95% rule, but I can tell you that it's the same concept, right? Because you're always trying to protect your real estate from probate. That is always one of the main goals with a living trust.
Okay.
And that when you have a reverse mortgage, it's even more crucial because then it allows what the beneficiaries of your trust to try to qualify for that mortgage in case they want to preserve the family and preserve the real estate or the family home and keep the family home in the family. So that's even more important when there's a reverse mortgage involved.
Okay, we have another question. This one is from Aurora. She's asking, would it be better to transfer your properties in the trust or just in your name?
So if you have real estate, you want a trust. That's it.
Period.
That's it. If you put it in your name, and if say Aurora just wants to own her 10 houses as Aurora, what happens when Aurora dies?
Right.
Her kids or her husband, her spouse, they're going to probate. But if you put it in your living trust, that ensures that you're not going to go to probate for those properties.
Makes sense.
Okay, we have another question from Alvin. He's asking, could a non-U.S. citizen
could you add
a non-U.S. citizen in your living trust?
Oh, like as a beneficiary?
I'm assuming, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It happens all the time. The only thing that you have to worry about is the implications of taxation in that non-U.S. citizen's country. So I'm going to give you an example. I had a client and she had no children, but she was leaving the bulk of her wealth to some nephews in Denmark, something like that. And Denmark is really not nice with regard to inheritances, and was basically like, if you get anything over 25 grand, we're going to tax you at 75%. Right.
Oh my gosh. That's
crazy. We had to get a little creative with, how she was going to leave behind her blessing. And it was like, well, you're going to start some checking accounts that are linked to some debit cards. And we're not even going to call it an inheritance because you've already created these trust accounts for these people. And they're not going to have to report the inheritance because there's already these trust accounts in place that were in place at the time while you were alive. So, it just depends. You can leave money behind to non-U.S. residents. You can, but you got to worry about how they're going to be taxed.
So is that a part of what you do? Do you find out what these other countries, like what their taxation laws may be?
Oh, yeah, I could. Absolutely. I could. And I can tell you Japan's also not so nice about inheritances. So you got to get creative. You have to get creative. Yeah. Because it's always like you want to leave behind a blessing and not a burden, right? And that really that's one of the things that the goals for estate planning as well. Because, if you have a home and you don't create a living trust, guess what you're leaving behind? A burden. You are leaving behind a burden. One-way ticket to probate. If you have a home and you've got a living trust in place, you're leaving behind a blessing. So it matters.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question.
A big difference, yeah.
The question is the living trust the same in all the different states, or are there some deviations?
No. So living trusts work nationally. You can form a living trust in Florida and own a piece of property in all of the 50 states, and it will still be part of your living trust. It would still be part of your estate. The only thing that is state specific is power of attorney documents. And so if you are a resident of Texas, you can have your living trust. You could have formed your living trust in New York 20 years ago. But because you are a resident of Texas now, your power of attorney documents have to conform to Texas code. Because that's where you live. That's where these power of attorney documents are going to be effective.
Yeah.
So to clarify that, Attorney Lioness, if I have already a living trust that was in New York, and then I moved to Texas, and I died, or I'm incapacitated, I'm in coma, and I have an SPA done in Texas while I was starting to get feeling like in trouble, right? So would my SPA be effective in Texas?
Is the SPA, is that a power of attorney?
Yeah,
Oh,
special
yeah.
power of attorney.
Yes. Yeah. So the rule of thumb is basically if you're going to move to a new state, you got to update your power of attorney document.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Because if my SPA was still from New York, and
you might run into problems. Yeah, you might run into problems.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because right, so power of attorney documents give your agents a lot of power. They basically take your place, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sick, or I've got COVID, or whatever it is. Now these people have access to your bank accounts. They have access to your life insurance policies. They could change the beneficiaries on you. They could sign documents and sell your house on your behalf. So it's that's why
I've heard all of those.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, these people that you put on as your agents, you really have to be confident in them and trust them implicitly, because you're giving them a lot of power.
Yeah.
And, here in California, because fraud runs rampant, I can tell you a lot of third parties are really sensitive to these power of attorney documents, and they will call you up and say, hey, did you give your daughter the permission to, take out $5,000 or whatever it is? They will do all sorts of things to verify. And I can't imagine that it would be any less in any other state.
And don't they also need to be recorded in the county?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Notarized.
They do have to be notarized, though. They do. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've had some instances where in order for them to sell the home, they had to record like a special power of attorney in that county to sell the home within that county.
Yes.
So,
it just depends. But I know here in LA County, we don't necessarily require it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, one thing big that I wanted to really mention is, when I've seen some people who have living trust and they brag that they have living trust, they have an attorney that did a living trust, but guess what they forgot to do? They forgot to do the next step, which is to have it notarized and transfer all the checking account, the property.
Yeah.
They didn't record it, it was recorded, it was not finalized.
Okay, so what you are actually talking about, you're actually talking about funding. And this is why I would advise everybody to not go to LegalZoom. Do not go to that paralegal down the street. And I know you guys go to church together and she's a sweet lady, okay? Do not go to your credit union. I kid you not. I just had this conversation with a prospective client and she's like, well, I already started the process with my credit union. I'm like, you think a banker is going to ask you the right questions? Like, come on.
That's so true.
Come on. All of the things that you've worked hard for, and you're going to go to your banker, okay, or your life insurance agent. Like, don't do that. So funding is important. And this is how you know you are going to the right place. Because once your trust is in place, the title to your properties, to your real estate, has to either be transferred into your trust or your LLCs if you do, rental income properties, right? And then if you do rental income properties, you've got to assign the power of these LLCs to your trust, right? If you have bank accounts, if you're not going to change the title to trust, you got to make sure that the pay on death beneficiary is your trust, right? If you have life insurance policies, you want to make sure that these policies are paid to trust. If you own stocks and bonds, you want to make sure that the owner of your stocks and bonds is your trust. Because if you don't do this, if you don't engage in funding and you're like touting, I've got a trust in place, but you didn't do the funding, you've just got paper.
That's true.
Nothing. It holds title to nothing. And guess what? Your family's going to probate. Still going to probate.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is why I say estate planning, it's so comprehensive. It's comprehensive. It's not who gets what when I die. got a piece of paper. Now I think I'm all taken care of. It's a process. It is a process.
Mm-hmm. And
So
you
I
have to
think
do
what
some renewal every time that you change assets.
Yeah, and that's another thing is,
People forget that.
yeah, when things change, you really need to see your estate planning attorney, because it can be a small thing, like I changed a bank account. My accounts got breached and now I've got new Citibank accounts, or I have 2 new annuities, or I have 2 new life insurance policies. You always want to make sure that your schedule of assets are up to date, because this is the roadmap. This is the roadmap for your trustees that come after you. What you don't want is when you die, nobody knows what you got. Nobody knows what you got. So now we're sitting by the mail, right? By the mailbox, trying to see what comes in. And sometimes quarterly statements, I mean, come on, once a quarter, you're going to wait 4 months to figure out what the decedent had. So, if you have a trust in place, you always want to see your estate planning attorney at least every 3 to 5 years. If only just to let them know, I changed that bank account. I'm not with Chase anymore. I'm with, B of A or whatever. However small a change, however big a change.
What happens if you refinance the house?
So that's a good question, because what I saw during the pandemic is something new. I saw that a lender was willing to refinance a trust. A trust. I saw that. And I actually met with another agent, a real estate agent today, and she told me that she had access to lenders who were willing to refinance with trusts in place. And so, so that's new. That is a new trend. That's something that was born of the pandemic. I think a lot of these lenders decided, hey, let's pivot because the county recorders are unreliable. It's taking forever to record a deed and get things back, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, people are still requiring homes and trusts to be taken out of trust if they have to refinance. What you just have to remember is that if you're going to refinance, you can either call your estate planning attorney and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Call me back in 60 months to make sure, the house is still back in trust. But you have to remember that your home always has to go back into trust. You take it out, you put it back in. That's the only way to protect your loved ones.
So I think we can see setting up a trust is important. I think a lot of people are scared of, the fees. How much are the fees typically to set up a living trust?
It depends. It really, really depends. I don't know that I would focus so much on the fees, because let's think about it. So even if you were going to pay, let's say your home was $600,000, it was worth $600,000, okay, and it's all paid off. Even if you were going to pay $7,000 for an estate plan that held your $600,000 home, and we're not even talking about your bank accounts, we're not talking about retirement, we're not talking about life insurance policies, I think that would still be worth it, because a $600,000 home in probate is about $16,000 going to the attorney. And that's not something and that's just the attorney. I'm not talking about filing fees. I'm not talking about the bonds. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm just talking about the attorney's fees, $16,000 to the attorneys. And that's the judge. That's the judge that decides what you have to pay the attorney. That's not what the attorney, trust me, the attorney wants more than $16,000 because then you'll have spent 3 years in probate. So, it's like, when it comes to estate plans, I get it. You want to get, your bang for your buck. But my advice would be, make sure you go to a qualified estate planning attorney. Qualified, because there's a lot of people that will want to help you, like your credit union,
an attorney,
your life insurance agent, who doesn't really want to give you a trust. They want you to sell. They want to sell you policies, right? Yeah. And avoid LegalZoom. These are your assets that you've sacrificed. Blood, sweat, and tears, and time. And now's not the time to be cheap. You really want to protect your loved ones.
And the thing is that once a property is in probate, guess what? Your seller's net is always going to be less.
Yeah.
That's right.
Once in probate, there's always something that, that property is going to be discounted and it's going to be dragged all the way to a year or more, and more
Yeah,
drama in the family and more stuff to deal with by the people who loves you.
it's true. It's true.
So how about people that have their parents, like elderly parents that are sick, and how should they set up their trust or their estate?
So, like, are you talking about setting up an estate on behalf of your mom and dad?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me tell you, that's actually right on point with the trend that COVID brought about. So back prior to COVID, our target client was, senior citizen, retired, semi-retired, right? Well, when we got through the pandemic, we realized that a lot of children were paying attention to estate planning. And they started realizing, oh my goodness, mom and dad do not have their affairs in order. And they got really educated about the perils of probate. And so what I would suggest is, if your parents still maybe they have the capacity, okay, they have the capacity to tell the attorney, this is what I want, but maybe they're bedridden, okay? What I would suggest is get a qualified estate planning attorney to visit your mom or dad, at home, because I don't think they're letting us into, senior facilities or, memory care facilities or anything like that. But
Yeah.
get these attorneys out to your home, to mom and dad's home, to have them sign power of attorney documents, okay? And to make sure that your parents actually have the capacity to have a conversation about who, if you were to go into a coma tomorrow, who would be in charge of your bank account? Who would get what? To have these meaningful conversations with your parents while they have the capacity. And once the power of attorney documents are in place, then if your parents gave you the permission, then you can go ahead and start the estate plan for them.
Mm-hmm. So what happens if they cannot anymore? What happens then? Who decides for them? Is the state?
It's called probate.
Even when they are sick?
Maybe it's a conservatorship. So conservatorship is what happens when you don't have the power of attorney documents in place.
So who's going to be assigned as a conservatorship?
It could be the spouse who is well, or it could be one of the kids who applies for it. Or if the judge decides, you know what, this is way too much family drama, none of you are fit. They're going to appoint a stranger.
Oh wow.
Maybe like an appointed case manager, social worker, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, as a baby boomer, my message to all those who are watching who are baby boomers or who has parents who are baby boomers, this is the time that you really have to think about. You don't want to wait until you cannot understand what people are saying, or when you start forgetting names of your kids, because once you start faltering, then it might be too late. It might be like the next day you have a bad fall or something. So and if you have assets, especially right now, that for the last 10 years the value of a property has gone up like crazy, then you have to really take care of household, because sometimes you, as Attorney Lioness said, you think that you're leaving your kids assets, but you're leaving problems. You're leaving, a reason for them to be fighting and not talking to each other.
That's
So it's sad.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you pointed that out. I actually just attended a continuing education class this very morning about clients who are aging and maybe find us when they're like freshly diagnosed with dementia, right? Remember, I told you there is a point of no return. There's a point of no return. And so when now we're taught, when you get somebody who has been freshly diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, now I have to ask these clients for a list of their medications. What medications are you on right now? And that's protecting me because, you know, your kids might engage in some sort of family drama where now your son doesn't believe your daughter has, you know, the right to be, you know, taking care of your affairs, or now your daughter is accusing your son of mishandling your monies. Now I'm coming under fire, and they're asking me, you know, did your client seem lucid at the time of your conversations? Did you ask them what kind of medications they were on? Because it's getting deep now. It's getting really, really deep with regard to, you know, how our target audience is aging, how they are becoming ill, and what we can do to protect our clients when they're in these positions, these vulnerable positions.
Yeah. For me, it's very sensitive because I have seen it happening, you know, because of the journey that I have been through, and I see firsthand experience
Of
of
course.
things that's happening. You know, people can change, even with families, even with children, even with spouses, you know. So it is important that I always say, if you have an asset, if you have certain things that you want to be done, if something, you know, in replace of you, get it in writing, get a trust, and get it legal.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I'm also a notary public, so
Estate planning attorney, please.
yeah.
Please.
So how can people reach
I'm a
you?
notary public, and I was doing notaries for people who are in the assisted living, in the hospital, and things like that. And sometimes people that I know, you know, and it can be really sad, you know. It can be too late, or you know, things like that. So it's hard. I just cannot overemphasize that these kinds of things has to be taken care of.
Yeah, that's true.
Good value in it. Yeah.
So our biggest takeaways from today are: if you own real estate, put it in a trust.
Please.
No wills, put it in a trust. And if you have heirs and beneficiaries, talk to an estate planner. Do not go to LegalZoom. Do not go to your credit union or life insurance company. You want to contact Lioness.
Yeah.
Lioness, tell our viewers how can they
Oh my
contact you,
goodness.
questions.
Yes. Okay. Well, do you want me to start spewing out telephone numbers?
However.
How does this go? Yes, please contact me. You can check out our website, collinslawgroup.com. You can call our office, 310-677-9787. You can call my cell phone number. Yes, I'm from San Diego. 619-245-5688. You know, either of those venues will work. And, you know, most of the time what I'll probably do if you're not savvy to estate planning is I will probably direct you to my webinar. It happens once a week, either on a Thursday or on a Saturday. And I just require 60 to 90 minutes of your time. Yes, it is educational. You will learn so much, but it's also entertaining.
Very nice.
Myself.
Are you not going to be our guest speaker with the FACCGLA?
If you ask me to.
Okay. All right.
Listen, I would love to do this again with you ladies, because I can tell you, the people that I end up retaining, they've probably seen my webinar on average 3 times over the last 5 to 15 years, because people procrastinate. People think, no, I won't get sick.
I don't need it right now, or whatever.
I'll get sick in 5 years, or I'll get sick in 15 years. And then it's like, your next door neighbor just went to probate. Oh, they come running so fast. And then I look at their track record. I'm like, you watched me 4 times? You watched me 4 times? And
before you did an action,
this is 4 times 90 minutes. So you wasted that much time of your time before you decided to get with it. Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And if you cannot get hold of Attorney Lioness, you can always call us, and we will connect you to her.
Yes. And I'm not, see, as you can tell, I'm not scary. I know talking about illness, right? Talking about illness and death, these are not sexy topics, but we've got to get real with ourselves. This is reality. If you own a home, you have responsibilities and obligations to your loved ones. Otherwise, like SP said, you're leaving behind burdens, and you don't want that. That's not what we work hard for. We don't work hard to leave curses and burdens behind, right? That's not what the meaning of life is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
True. All right. Well, I think that wraps up our show. Thank you so much, Lioness. You have been super informative, super awesome.
So much.
Yes.
And we will definitely reach out to you again when we can do this again.
Yes. Thank you guys again.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
We will see you guys next week. Have a great night.
Okay. All right.